All right. I called to order the Lynchburg Plan Commission meeting for Wednesday, May 27th, 2026. The first order of business is the approval of our May 13th minutes. Anybody had a chance to see them? Any changes or recommendations or motion? Motion? Second. Okay. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Anybody not here? Opposed? Okay, great. All right, our next order of business is to consider the amendment on data centers. And I'm going to ask, it's long, so I'm going to ask Rachel to present that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, members of the Planning Commission. For, I guess, some background and just a refresher, Planning Commission directed staff to look into possible data center zoning ordinance updates last fall on September 10th. We also held a work session last month on April 22nd where we discussed potential updates and just try to do a pulse check of what the commission was looking to regulate. Again, as I said at that meeting, Lynchburg has not had specific inquiries or proposals for data centers at this time, but we do think there's potential that, we could get a request for one of these facilities in the future, and we just want to be prepared for that. So these are kind of the guiding principles that staff presented last month and what we used to draft the ordinance. We wanted to, if a data center were to be proposed, how do we mitigate impacts to residents and the surrounding land uses? How can we preserve our commercial and business districts for true commercial uses? And how can we evaluate data center proposals on a case-by-case basis when they do come in the districts that we are proposing? As a reminder of where we are currently with data centers, in our ordinance, data centers fall under the definition with data processing and management, hosting, and related services. They are allowed by right in all of our business districts, all industrial districts, and institutional district 2. By right uses mean that Planning Commission does not get to make a recommendation on them, and City Council would not be able to approve or deny them because they are by right. We also don't have any specific land use standards for data centers right now, like buffering or special setbacks, that sort of thing. So to get into the draft updates, we would start with defining a data center. This is the definition that we discussed last month, basically a premises in which the majority of the use is occupied by computers and/or telecommunications and related equipment for processing, storing, or transferring information. That also includes ancillary utility substations, generators, and other supporting equipment associated with the primary data center use. Once we define data center, we then need to make sure that we would distinguish this use from the category that it currently falls into. So we would strike the term computer data storage from this description and explicitly say data centers as articulated in the definitions section to figure out what those are. This is kind of the most important part, I would say. By amending this description, this is what removes data centers as a by right use in all of our business districts, all of our industrial districts, and the IN2. We would then add another use, LCBS 4244A, specifically articulating data centers and making them by conditional use permit in the industrial districts and the IN2 district. This map shows that change. So here's kind of currently where they are allowed. This is where they would be allowed by CUP. Again, being by right, which means without council approval in this scenario, the proposed ordinance would take out the commercial districts and only allow them by conditional use permit in the industrial and IN2 district. So that summarizes the changes to the districts themselves. And we then get into the land use specific standards. The proposed section 35.2-72.29 would first set requirements for information needed as part of a CUP application. Basically, number one is saying we need to look at the sound profile of the impact on any residential units or schools within a certain amount of feet of the a buffer from the property. Site assessment showing impact on, water resources, agriculture, historic sites, forest land, et cetera. Details of any new or existing substations that would be serving the data center, the transmission voltage needed to serve the data center, and the anticipated route of any transmission lines needed to serve it. And number 4, the details of the water usage, essentially, how they will be cooled, whether the facility will use potable or reclaimed water, and what's their anticipated need of the water, and how would they purify their own wastewater. Just to make sure that, as part of the CUP application, we understand what the needs are and what the potential impact is on, our utilities. Yeah, we would need that as part of the CUP application so that when we bring it to you, they've articulated all that. Continuing that section, setbacks and screening requirements would be set. We had discussed a required setback from residential zoning at our work session last month, and I do have some maps to show you. We looked at a 250-foot, a 500-foot, and a 1,000-foot buffer that I'll display here in a minute. One thing to note is that industrial and institutional districts can be pretty intense, and especially industrial districts may not be really appropriate near residential districts regardless. So that's just something to keep in mind as we look at those maps. The next section would describe the windows when generators can be tested. Basically weekdays during working hours. The section then goes on to talk about noise and noise monitoring. Another discussion point from the work session was the frequency of the noise testing. So I've highlighted that here on this slide. I think we had initially said every few years. It was suggested to make it an annual requirement, so that has been reflected here. And the maximum height was something we had also discussed. I wrote it for 45 feet. And again, I wrote it for 1,000 feet from the residential. So, the commission can still tweak those things, but I thought we'd, start with a number and you can work back from that. It was suggested to be 40 feet. It seemed like 40 feet was about the minimum on the data center. So I said, okay, 45, give it a little leeway. But it's ultimately up to the commission to make a recommendation. This is the map showing the buffers. So this is a 250-foot buffer. The orange areas are the areas where essentially they would be precluded from locating based on the residential district. It looks like a lot because a lot of our city is zoned for residential use. So you can see there are pockets of industrial areas where the data centers could still be permitted by CUP. Going up from there, so this is 250. This is 500. Not much different. And this is 1,000. Really doesn't look that much different either. But so those are some options for the residential buffer if you choose to include that piece as part of the ordinance. And that, even though it was hundreds of pages, that is really what it boils down to is changing these things from a by right use to conditional use permit, limiting the districts where they can go, and setting the standards for if one were to be developed. So I think we'll have the public hearing and then we can discuss as needed.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't see anybody here who wants to speak, and I don't know if anybody has contacted the office about this.
No
I did
voicemails.
contact a couple council members, and I think it's kind of under the radar, which is what we want to do is be ahead of the ball game. So I think we'll close the public hearing and let's go ahead and shoot some questions out.
In the industrial 2 area, what could realistically go there?
Industrial too?
Yeah.
Not institutional.
No, actually, I'm sorry, institutional.
Institutional. So the institutional 2 districts that we have are the Liberty University campus and the Lynchburg General Hospital campus. Those districts are modeled around our B5 district, which is our general business district. The difference is that in the business districts, schools and universities and hospitals are limited to a certain cap on their size, but in the institutional district, they're not.
Does anything in the proposed resolution exclude University of Lynchburg or Randolph College from having a data center or having the ability to have such a facility?
So I don't believe so, because what a campus of that size, if you're talking about a data center, it wouldn't be the primary use. It would be, as defined.
Okay, since their primary mission is being a data center, they could
Right.
have something that would
Oh, I just
qualify.
passed it, I think. Yeah, a premises in which the majority of the use is occupied by computers and or telecommunications and related equipment. So
A premises being defined as, how do we define premises?
well, if we don't define it in the ordinance, then we define it by Merriam-Webster. So we can check that.
Because you could certainly section off a shed, as it were, or a warehouse on a given property, and use it for that. And it wouldn't be a primary use.
I guess where I'm going is I just don't want to exclude those those
That
entities.
came up about universities, maybe,
Yeah.
having their own
Yeah.
processing centers on AI centers, because eventually
Yeah.
that's probably going to happen, as the things get smaller, if that happens. But, so we don't want to omit that, but the question came up, could they be, what if they want to farm this stuff out? And that's kind of where the question I have about a premises in which the majority of the use is occupied by computers. Because you could use 1/100th of a university campus or Framatome or somebody, and set up a data center and sell the services. And it still would be rather large, but it wouldn't be the primary function of the business.
Yeah, I'm
So,
trying
so
to-
I
trying to
guess
think
what I'm saying
how
is
we
maybe a
could
little more
make that
depth
clearer.
on premises would be helpful, in my view.
So the definition, structures and land that make up a parcel of property.
So that'll kind of fit with what I'm saying, like, yeah,
But if it were the majority of the use, if the,
Yeah, in
if the
which
main
case it
use
wouldn't
is
be.
still a university or a hospital,
if the main use, for example, if Liberty's easy to use because it's a large campus. Say they've got 20 acres on the back of their campus where they own 100, 800, 500 acres. And they sell it or contract it out. And on that 20 acres, they're going to put up a gigantic data center and want to farm it out.
well, so at that scale, in the IN2 district, you could get a CUP for that.
You could do it.
Yeah. But I think what Commissioner Cox is referring to is something on a smaller scale,
Yeah.
which I think it's an accessory to the university at that point.
Okay.
I don't think this definition would apply
Okay.
there.
Okay. Yeah, that's all I'm looking for. Yeah, I think that's.
Frankly, yeah,
Yeah.
if we use the 1,000 foot, I mean, it's kind of a moot point anyway. So I mean, it's not going anywhere in the city except over there in, Liberty side of town. So that's what it looked like.
Or an industrial park.
But I guess the 500 and 1,000, please.
So there's 250, there's 500, and there's 1,000.
So that Montview and the Liberty campus is really where it would ultimately really be the only locations that it could possibly go. The industrial park in that corner, the 1,000 feet really just reduces that size of that industrial park to a very limited amount of space.
Well, the gray area is industrial also.
Right, but the industrial park over there near
Walk.
their PFC Desmond Dawes Highway,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
the 1,000 feet buffer really reduces the size of that.
So if you, if
Industrial
you
park even
wanted to
further.
reduce it to 500, that's what it would look like. You'd still have some feasible sites there potentially. I mean, most of those are probably built out, but just in theory.
I mean, frankly, really, we're doing what we did with another thing is, at least in my opinion, everybody may not agree with this, but we're using the power of zoning to restrict these things in the city. I mean, until they can say, look, we can't build a 5 acre, 10 acre building, but what we can do is take an old building and go vertical with it. And we talked about that, I think, last time too. So this would effectively even preclude that, except over on Liberty side. And really, these things tend to go, from what I've seen, in very large tracts of land. They're getting ready to build one up north, what's it, double the size of Manhattan.
That's whatever in Utah or something.
Incredible. Yeah, I think massive. So, I mean, it'll probably end up going in the county anyway. So this is really more preventative, I think.
So this removes any by right. Correct?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what I understood.
Yes.
I think in terms of the buffer distances, because of our intentions here, I would tend to err on the side of the larger buffer distance. And if council decides it needs to be tweaked, it's easier to go the other direction than to realize we didn't make it large enough and we need to tweak it up.
Rather have it than not.
Yes. We can always scale it back down, but if it's too low to begin with, then there's not much we can do if we realize it too late. And it's not a big deal to, I don't think we've done it before, to revisit something like this in a couple of years, because it is a major addition.
It is. And by that, I mean, 5-10 years, they may have better cooling systems and don't require massive
Sure.
amounts of water.
Have you reached out to the EDA at all?
For the city, because I think they're the ones, from what I understand, that area out there off 221, that's kind of a hot topic with the EDA. And, how that land's used and what it's going to get used for. And it'd be interesting to hear what they would have to say about restrictions on that land. And they might say,
Which land?
it's the one, I can't think what it's called, but it's where Frito-Lay is. It's that gray spot on the corner.
Is that Lynchburg?
Yeah.
Not specifically, no. But we can do that.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I
So-
think there's some areas in the industrial area in gray that are underused or not used that would be great sites for large things like that.
But even so, these don't employ people.
Yeah.
I mean, the possibility of them building one of these in the city is probably low, but.
Well, that's why I'm wondering if like the footprints are going to change, like how many are going to be. I've been looking at them, and it's funny how some of them use a lot less water than others. Some of them might be big and they're very quiet. Some are small and they're really loud. It just depends on the use. I didn't realize how many uses there were of these facilities, but I mean, I think I agree with Dave, like just going with a larger buffer. And if council wants to push back on that, or if the EDA says, hey, we need to try to use this land out here at Lynchburg, then that would be the time to address it.
Yeah.
My thought.
Do we know the height of some of these buildings in these industrial parks?
I think there's a
The
limit.
limits on these other buildings, we know what
45
those
feet.
are,
So
if there are any.
the, normally industrial districts don't have a height limit.
Okay.
Did I see something here that limited the size of these buildings to 45 feet?
That was something we had discussed last time. If the commission doesn't want to regulate the height, we could take that out. We had also talked about, with the potential for them to just being an evolving technology, if there's more potential for them to build up than out, then maybe you don't want to limit the height because then you're not using as much land area. They're going more vertical.
But that kind of gets it from both sides, vertical and
I think
horizontal.
again, the height limitation, again, it's better to err on the conservative side, like
Right.
Dave's proposed with the area. And if we want to adjust it later, we can.
Yeah, like if you were lower, then the buffer could be closer, but the higher it gets, the bigger the buffer has to be because of the angle, noise being pushed out. So we talked about that building downtown. Remember on the corner of 9th and Main? Just kind of came up and,
Or is it 8th, maybe? Is it 8th Main?
I don't know.
It's
The
Ninth and Main?
right here.
the large bank.
Oh,
On the
9th and
corner-
Main.
On the
Okay,
corner
yeah,
right
that
here,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. So this allows anything to be used in that way in the way of a data center
What's,
At the moment.
at the moment.
yeah, as the ordinance currently
Yeah.
is, in effect, yes.
And when this passes, that will never be able to be used that way. Because it's,
No, unless council were to change it or, if we were to put the commercial districts back in, B4 does not allow for that in the current draft.
That was the building you brought up.
Yeah, I did some research on that, yeah.
One thing I appreciated was, and it sounds like maybe we're not discussing it a lot because we spent a lot of time discussing this last time. So I think we've covered a lot of the topics. But one thing I appreciated was the addition of what they need to include as part of their CUP. I think that's a nice thing to request. I'm wondering with the first request with the sound profile, that's not providing an estimate of how loud the facility would be, right? It's just looking at the potential impact of sound on the surrounding area.
Well, I think to measure the impact, you would need to know how loud it's going to be.
Okay.
So yeah, there's.
So that would be included in that.
Right, and the section that does talk about sound, I can't remember if I included it on the side. But there is, notwithstanding, yeah, so all noise generated by a data center, including the generators, shall comply with the regular noise ordinance that would be in effect for industrial
Okay.
districts.
So on that topic, the little information I've been able to gather, they also admit this low sound frequency, this humming. I'm not a data center guy, but
Me neither.
obviously we don't want these high-pitched sounds. But this low emitting sound is something I feel like would be very concerning. And I'm not sure exactly what parameters or how to measure or monitor that, but to me, it feels like that is also important. It wouldn't hit the threshold of the sound ordinances that we have. It would be much lower.
Well, I would think that should be covered in a sound profile as well.
Okay.
And again, this is something I'm learning too,
Yeah.
so I appreciate the question.
I think one thing to follow on, I think what Dave's saying is, what I don't see in here is any like thresholds for the sound, like we have height and we have area, like we have numbers for that. But we don't, I mean, unless there's a code referenced or something like that in the sound discussion, like there's no thresholds for like high frequency noise or low frequency noise or noise at a certain distance. And so, if I were looking to design one of these, that would be one of the things I would look for, is to see what my requirements are.
Well, even to piggyback off of that, I know we're sort of ping-ponging here. I mean, do we even, this is not intended to be how much water is too much water? How much energy is too much energy? And how much wastewater is too much?
So my conversations with water resources is, my understanding is there's not like a set number. It's more about where is it and what is the capacity in that area versus just a threshold, like a no more than X. It's more about what can the system provide in that area and what can the sanitary system be, take on
Yeah.
in that area. So that's,
Sort of
it's
case by
more of
case.
that's where the whole like evaluation on the case by case basis comes in.
Yeah.
CUP, and they want 90% of the capacity in the area. Well, that tells us that we should recommend denial, that sort of thing. So
Just real quickly, again, related to the water usage, dumb guy question again, but I mean, we're currently in a drought, and I don't know how these things operate in various conditions, but maybe as a part of the process, they outline what they do in extreme weather conditions such as a drought. Because if they're putting too much, taxing our water resources too much during a drought when it really needs to be reallocated or allocated towards our citizens. And again, I don't know how this stuff works, but it feels like considering we're in a drought right now, I was curious how that would play out. And again, not sure what we should do about that, but it does feel pertinent.
Yeah.
Say, I'm looking at a picture, section 2, section 35, 272, paragraph 2. Site assessment evaluating the effect of proposed facility on ground and surface water resources, agricultural resources, parks, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one of the things that would have to be provided, right? They would have to guesstimate anywhere how much.
That'll
Well-
number 4. I mean,
Yeah,
number 4
so-
gets into the anticipated daily.
Yeah, water daily, that's even better.
I mean, there could be an added line on
So there is an
what
estimate for that. Dave,
what
they
an
have to
extreme
provide.
situation could look like.
And that'd be part of the CUP evaluation. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're talking about adding something like,
Like what's the bare minimum?
so I don't know that there is a bare minimum, especially depending on all the different scales and types of these things that can be,
That may change too.
right, yeah.
So you've got a big
Right.
city as a time of our usage.
Right.
And I would think because, we're in a drought could get better, could get worse, it's just hard to find specific thresholds.
Again, the case-by-case evaluation, I think we in the council would call in someone from water resources as part of the discussion, just like we
Because that would provide. the-
just like we do the traffic engineer for other proposals. So we use that info as part of the eval.
Right, and, as part of our technical review committee, which reviews all the petitions before they come to planning commission and before planning commission sends them to council, we rely on our subject matter experts from each department to tell us this does or doesn't work, or this needs something else in order to work, or, what are the caveats with each proposal that comes forward. They're involved.
A lot of these would be addressed by the different companies that are applying as to know what kind of usage that you would be having on a, case-by-case basis there. But you've done a lot of great work. Your team's done a lot of great work in putting these parameters together to make sure that we, as a city, meet the needs of the citizens. And I was just going to say on the height, the 45 foot, you have to take into consideration there too, both safety and fire hazard. The taller the building, the more you would have, potential for possible fire there. But these things are being put up so many different places right now.
The only other question that I had after reviewing this was back to the noise testing. I know we have it set for, I think, annually. But I might suggest, and I'll be curious what the group thinks here, but having testing within 90 days of the establishment of the data center, but also adding some sort of caveat that if any new equipment, and I don't know how you define that, but new equipment gets put in, then there needs to be that, it's almost like that resets. Because annually feels, in my opinion, it feels too long of a period of time. And I think we talked about this last time we got together, but
So you would say in number 2 there, then a noise study certifying noise levels shall be conducted within 90 days of the certificate of occupancy?
something to that effect. I guess what I'm concerned about are our citizens not having a voice until a year later.
Uh-huh.
And s-
And then every 12 months thereafter.
or-
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it would be difficult to say if you expanded the footprint, then yeah, you could say, do it again, but adding equipment within a building that is zoned you have occupancy for would be tough to have any kind of testing
Well-
framework
It's
around
still
that.
gonna catch it.
it's going to
No
catch
matter
it in
12 months.
another,
Yeah,
12
I
months.
guess what I'm advocating for more than
That
anything is our
90
citizens
days.
having a voice. If something gets installed tomorrow and then we find out 30 days later that it is like just egregiously
Mhm.
harmful to the community, I'd rather us have the ability to, our citizens have the ability to voice their change sooner than later, or voice their concerns sooner than later.
Mhm.
But, and maybe
So-
everyone feels like that's already captured here, but I'm just,
Between 60 and 90 days of the CO. So it's like if there's potentially an issue 30 days in,
Yeah.
we can say, look, we're testing in a month once things have really gone
Yeah.
up and running
I like that.
in between that 30-day window, or we can do it like 30 to 90 days.
Yeah.
So there's like a time frame, like, hey, if we need to get it done, it needs to be done.
Okay, so change the first part to, the first highlight, a noise study certifying noise levels shall be conducted between 2 and 3 months, basically, 60 and
I think
90
60
days.
to 90
I don't know,
days.
I think the 90 days, just saying within 90 days of the startup of the facility. I think that would be fair, because I think if you start putting up this framework, like it could be this and it could
That
be
actually is a
that.
really narrow window in terms of,
Yeah, I think it's just
construction.
best just to say 90 days from the date of startup.
okay, so 90 days.
I mean, you-
Unphased startup, because
Yeah.
maybe they phase.
Yeah.
Well, so yeah, so once you get the
Full
certificate of
operation.
occupancy is when you can officially like start
Yeah.
operating.
Mhm.
So
They
that
may
would
take a
be,
year to get up to full capacity. You know,
4
but
years
90
to get built.
Yeah, but
Well-
90 days after, they're probably, if it's phased, then there would be a caveat.
Mm.
So as long as, if it's unphased, they're operating at 100% in 90 days.
so to address the other comment about, there's potential for new things to be added or like something changes with the
Yeah.
facility and then it creates a big problem. I'm wondering if that's something that as part of the building permit, when we have building permits issued on parcels with conditional use permits, there's a flag basically that says someone needs to look at this building permit, make sure the CUP is being followed. So as part of the building permit, they would have to submit not necessarily an updated noise study, but documentation showing that whatever they're doing has the noise mitigation in it.
I like
So
that.
like the fans or
Yeah.
the whatever, the
Right.
generator, it meets the other section, the section that's not shown here, but that talks about, insulating or how you basically make a quieter facility. So I think that is possibly the way to address that. Just when the building permit comes in, make sure it's constructed in a way that follows the code. And the code does say, as it's drafted, that basically it's on them to show that they built it to that spec.
Mhm.
So they installed it that way, it's on them. And then, yeah,
Right, 'cause it's not just noise. An upgrade could,
Mean more energy use or more
Yeah.
water use.
Right.
So any upgrades would have to still fall within the original CUP petition.
And they could say after, if they're at 40% operation after 90 days, they can come back and say, hey, we're in full compliance of water usage, electrical usage, everything, noise output, and then the next day, boom, launch to 100%, and they've got, 9 months.
So this is interesting. Something I saw is they have to tie their emergency power generation to the capacity of their facility. And I think that's a great way to look at it and say, well, that would be one thing. If you add more power generation, because the facilities can't stop. So they have to actually have enough emergency power to operate the facility. So if they phase and they grow, they would be adding more emergency backup power. I think it's up to them to really kind of tell the story about what they're doing.
That's a good point, because that would reveal
Yeah,
what they're putting in.
yeah. There's been some organizations that have started finding out more about these just through looking at emissions reports on generators, so.
So it seems like we're kind of merging design and construction with operations. And I guess Dave was kind of discussing a second ago, and I just want to make sure that I'm clear, like what is controlling, what levers does the city have to control the operations or like modifications to the facility? Like Chuck was saying, we could have they could sub a generator that's twice the power and that was the same footprint somehow. I don't know how they would do that, but let's just pretend. But is there something in the city code right now for any facility that requires modifications to the facility to be brought back to city council or zoning commission, planning commission for zoning review or?
So it depends on what conditions you set as part of your conditional use permit. If it is, a certain power usage, water usage, footprint, number or, capacity of the generators.
Yeah.
If they want to expand beyond what the conditions say, then yeah, that has to come back through the same process to say, okay, we've done what we said we'd do. The noise is good. The water's good. We want to do a little more. That would require, further council approval.
Okay, we say that in somewhere in the city code, it says that they're required to do that.
I guess not explicitly in the code, but not in this code, but
Yeah.
when you set conditions, you're essentially making the rules.
Okay.
So, yes.
I think if we, I feel like we've gone far enough in the way of looking at these facilities. It's that next step that then we'll have to look at. Let's say, for example, someone builds an apartment complex and they said we have 10 apartments and each apartment has 8 bathrooms. Then it's the planning staff, community development has to say, what's going on? Why are there 8 bathrooms? That's not something that I think, determine. We determine the use, they can use this for apartments, but I think it's in that planning process, they're gonna have to look and say, this is why we're doing this, this is why we're doing that. And then state their argument as to what they're doing.
You got to find out what goes where, I guess, what you're saying. Because, you want to assume that everybody's going to be a good actor when they come in, build these things. But unfortunately, the reality is we have to prepare, these nitpicky things, because the sad part is this is real life, and somebody wants to build one and they want to do some monkey business, they're going to do it if there's a loophole.
I think one of the worst things that we've seen this multiple times, is where people come in and they speculate on land, thinking they can then in turn sell it to somebody who will do that. And then it locks up land. And this is something that protects us from that. Like, maybe this will help us get better actors rather than speculators.
So are we changing this to 90 days sound?
I think that's what I heard. Yeah.
A year
Within 90 days.
Yeah, within.
90 days at full capacity, at assumed or planned full capacity.
Well, the problem is they could
Trying to-
then
yeah.
operate at
Well,
95%
that's at that
capacity.
time, yeah, right.
I think it's what the
Unphased,
term
I
you
guess.
used, Rachel, when they get.
The certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
Yeah.
when you can press go on, the building inspector comes out and says, looks
I mean,
good.
there's only so much we can do. Our job is not to police these things. We're putting these in place.
And with the 12 months, that's a huge risk that an organization would run to exceed that sound and then lose their CO in 12 months. So I think that has enough teeth to let them know we're serious about it.
You got, let's just say it was January 1st, and you've got 90 days, and then you have a turnaround of another, 9 months, and you have to get another inspection. So you're really, you have to meet those requirements for the CO. You have to meet it again in a minimum of 90 days or less, and then 9 months later. So you really have 3 times that you have to meet that within the first year. Right?
I'm okay with that.
Right, yeah, that's, for me, that's great. So I would say conducted within 90 days after the issuance of the first CO and every 12 months thereafter.
Okay. We'll note that. I can't really edit the slides with that computer, but we'll change that first highlight to say 90 days, within 90 days. Was there, hold on. I think that was the other thing, was, it sounded like you wanted to go with the bigger buffer.
I like the 1,000.
I think those are the only two questions, was the buffer and the height. And I'm fine with 1,045 feet, which is what you have suggested for both.
And that is something that's usual and customary other places as well, the 1,000
Just
foot
that,
buffer. Have you seen other places?
I mean, it really ranged. But from what I've read, these facilities next to residential are very problematic. So, 250 or 500, it's really not a lot once you get on the ground. But, if the commission wants to change it or council wants to change it, they can still do so, or, not have a buffer at all, but just trying to protect the residents nearby.
This is to talk to other locations to address, to see if they are having problems that you know of with these data centers within Virginia
Yeah,
that are not addressed right here.
read a lot of best practices, and I mean, some ordinances are very complex and some are a little more simple. We kind of try to strike a balance between something that is workable and still protects, the surrounding land uses. So I feel like that's kind of what we've accomplished here. Appreciate the commission's input, especially at the work session. That was helpful to kind of get us going in the right direction. But yeah, people are doing it all different ways.
Yeah. What's the deal on the tax base? I know that Louise Lucas has a different thing with these taxes on data centers. The exemption has been in, how many years has it been that they don't pay taxes now through the state of Virginia? 39. I mean, she wants to wash that out and start taxing all of these. She'd like to start taxing all of these data centers. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But not tool tax, not the personal property tax. That I think that's what communities like these for, is
There is
yeah,
tax revenue.
they're paying tax revenue on their facility.
Yeah, really tried to focus more of just a land use compatibility lens for the purposes of the zoning ordinance update. Whatever the state does, but yeah.
They can consider right from here to that wall back there, it's probably about 60 feet.
Right. Well, I'm
So
thinking
1,000 feet sounds like a lot, but
really around Liberty and around the Montview industrial sites there, really, you're surrounded by the expressway and that little cut through for Candler's Mountain, and then you got 460. There's not a lot of residential there anyway, which is really where this 1,000 foot reduces that area to, other than the couple little spots in the industrial park in the corner there. So, I mean, I personally think that area would be fine. I mean, there's already industrial there. I mean, they're producing stuff, they're manufacturing goods, whatever it is, they're making noise. And I don't know of any complaints from that part of town. I mean, there's residential is pretty far away from those parts of town right now as it is.
Rachel, I have a question about on Liberty's property going along the city limits, that would be the eastern city limits there in the bypass. Is that, what is it? Is that conservation land? Is that R1?
Yeah,
is
I think the steep slopes there are so yeah, there's some residential and some resource conservation. I don't know if you'll really be able to see it, but I do have the regular zoning map. Here's just all of the zoning. So that yellow strip there is the residential that is precluding some of that area with the buffer. Excuse me.
No, Liberty could come in and say they want to change all that residential along the city limits to
Institutional.
institutional. And then
Yeah.
that would open up more land if they wanted.
It could, yeah.
Yeah.
So the little yellow piece there.
isn't that where they have all those faculty houses?
No, I'm talking about this. This is further heading east, further east. It's near where they're building a new fire station.
Down
The
the
intersection of
area by
Oddfellows Road, that
by the
area there.
roundabout
Yeah.
area for them, yeah. Rachel, can I ask a question, since nobody here between us, us and the chickens, is who all had a hand in putting this together? This is a lot of detail in there.
So like I said, I did use Frederick County as sort of a baseline, especially for all that noise mitigation. They had a lot of detail and recognizing that, if we just say we want to regulate noise, but we don't articulate how we're going to measure it and, kind of the specifics, it seems like a lot, but, better to, and it puts it all on them, right? So they need to provide the report that shows us all those things. So a lot of that specific noise stuff did come from their locality, their zoning ordinance. Hold on, sorry, I'm back in our work session slides now. And then just in thinking of, what we need to know as part of the CUP, that was, kind of reading from best practices from other localities, what you need to understand up front, talking with water resources about, what the important parts are with the cooling facility, whether it's potable or reclaimed.
So you did the bulk of this, basically research and plugged it in there. Basically.
I mean, yeah.
You did a good job. No,
Well,
I'm looking at it.
Thank you.
Just out of curiosity, did any AI come into play since that's what we're regulating is
No.
AI? I'm like,
Yeah.
AI is actually putting itself under.
Data center in our office.
Best use for the
No.
plan.
Absolutely not. I'm sure it would tell us that everything is fine and we don't need to regulate anything.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
Great
it's good.
work. I appreciate that it's been done.
Yeah. I like it's consistent with some of the other things we've done, some of the other regulations, being able to go back and follow some of the same standards we do when we're looking at other CUPs. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, we'll change that 90 days. Point well taken on the drought. I don't know if there's like a proper wording or something we can work in. I can chat with the city attorney about it just to see if that maybe would be a recommendation.
I'm sure they articulate peak usage, but
Mhm,
yeah, during a drought, especially when we're.
right. And how do we define that? Do we need to say
Minimum regardless of.
a drought for, as defined by the National Weather Service or, what's the threshold there? I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, and I think, and we're also very different than some places. They were just in the work session last night, Water Resource pointed out that they really can't sell enough water. There's not enough usage, and that's driving rates. So we have a river, and that's, I think, one of the things that Lynchburg has always used to try to get business, whether it's food production or whatever. But do we go ahead and do a motion? Is that how we do that to pass this on?
I just have one more thing, Rachel. So in section B, there's a statement there, B3.1, all generators shall be enclosed with a manufacturer-approved enclosure. I mean, I would suggest deleting manufacturer, just because the manufacturer would probably say, oh, we'll just stick a I-beam and just one I-beam or something in front of a generator, and that's not really going to do anything, and it would be manufacturer-approved and maybe not what we would want.
And what was your comment to do what?
Just remove the word manufacturer instead of
Oh, and
manufacturer
approved,
approved. Just
Okay.
remove. I suggest removing manufacturer there because that gives them.
I'm wondering if that was based on, I think that part came from Frederick County, and I'm wondering if that's just because it might be a fire hazard or something if you didn't use a manufacturer approved.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just argue though that if they want to put whatever the piece of equipment is, the data center developer will have to be doing manufacturer approved stuff.
In a lot of different things.
Yeah. But taking that out gives us still the power to, or city council or whoever, somebody in the city, the power to kind of control what goes there, or gives them some control.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I just want to add, this is a nice set of regulations, and I think it's about the right amount for what what we're looking for, what I would have expected. And a nice presentation today. And I think we had a nice discussion and had, good result and a good path forward for as I can see now, in my opinion.
Okay.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve with the just tweaks as discussed.
seconded.
All right, any other comments before we vote? All right, we're going to be voting on approval of passing this on to city council. So all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Great, it's unanimous. Thank you, Rachel. Look forward to seeing you present this at council.
You don't watch those, do you?
So I'm going to watch. Anything else that we need to, do we have a meeting in 2 weeks?
Yes. I remember what's on it.
It's your vacation then.
Yeah,
Yes, I did get some vacation emails. Thank you guys.
Yeah, we do have a
It
meeting.
was your email, Tom.
it was my email,
It
wasn't
was your
it?
email, yeah.
I did it after I sent mine. Just be honest. I'm just being honest.
Yes, you will have a meeting in 2 weeks. We'll
Great.
see you back.
What's that date?
10th.
And you're not sure what it is right now? I'm sure it's something we know,
Not off the top of my head.
something I've seen. Apartments or something.
Check the newspaper.
So I've got to be in Asheville on the 11th, so.
We'll make sure it doesn't go
That may
too
work.
late.
What, does it
We
go
just
too
make,
late?
it. Yeah, we make sure it won't
We'll
go
just
till
move
like
the
1 in the
meeting for
morning.
me, Tuesday.
We do.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, we can sit here and talk about what the meeting will be, or we can have a motion to go.
To adjourn.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
See you all later.